What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall market. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, let's talk about what's happening with the market right now. We're seeing the market being range bound technically, but I do want to give you guys a warning about how things are looking in terms of the larger trends. Now, starting off with some data, just know that so far today, initial jobs claims was below expectations, and all the jobs numbers were quite decent. The manufacturing numbers were above expectations, which is why the market saw a small push, only to come back down. And overall, we're just pretty much just stuck. From this point on, there's nothing really crazy that's coming out for the rest of the day in terms of data. But there was this news for Tesla I want to talk about real quick. So we got the production deliveries numbers. Unfortunately, Tesla came short. Their production was at about 459,000, which is not bad for all of their models. But then what matters more is deliveries. We only did about 495,570. Now, what's good about this is technically a new record for Tesla. They did beat their all-time high deliveries amount for a quarter, so not bad whatsoever in that regard. But Wall Street was expecting 506,000 plus, if not 515,000, for Tesla to see a big amount of growth compared to last year. Now, last year, Tesla did 1.8 million deliveries in total, and then this year we only did about 1.78 million. Once again, very close to the previous year's numbers, but not really surpassing them. And because there was a decrease compared to what we saw in 2023, this tells us that Tesla's numbers are below what Wall Street was expecting, and that's why the share price has come down quite a bit. Production was at 1.77 million. That's not as much of a worry for us. What matters more is deliveries, and we came a little bit short of what Wall Street was expecting. Now, energy storage deployments were also increasing by about a total of 31.4 gigawatt hours for 2024. That's pretty good. We had about 11.0 gigawatt hours for Q4, but obviously investors don't really pay as much attention to that. They're more focused on deliveries, which came a little bit short. That's why Tesla is very flat right now. It started off weak. There are some buyers trying to defend it because of the fact that the market is seeing some buyers defending as well. But the market's range bound, and so is Tesla. So as far as Tesla goes, we have this resistance around this 383.5 area. If we break this, we're looking for 386 and then eventually 390 above that. If this rejects, we're looking for essentially the 380 areas are a zone of support. If 380 fails us, we're looking for a dip back down towards the 376 area. Overall, Tesla's in a range. There are buyers trying to defend it after it got a big sell-off. We're still technically down 5% for the day. And I think we might see a lot of choppy price action in this range, at least for the time being. Now, when we zoom out of Tesla, however, despite the fact that we are in a range, I do want to give you guys a warning of more downside, because when you zoom out, just like this, when you zoom out, you guys can see that Tesla has a tendency of being a little bit weaker here. We have a lower high being made and a bit of a downtrend for the last couple of weeks. So we're approaching our 200 EMA around 362. We haven't really met that yet. So there is that risk of us dipping lower later on towards that support before we see some kind of bounce attempt. So keep that in mind. We're watching to see if this support holds around this 380 area. If not, the 378 to 380 area, if that fails, there's still that risk of us retesting this breakout area near this 363 area close to our 200 EMA. So there is still weakness on Tesla, and there's still that risk of downside. For SPY, on the other hand, I just want to say that we are in a very interesting phase. So, we have this head and shoulders, right? There's this giant left shoulder, head and right shoulder, but SPY has not officially lost key support and hasn't broken resistance. We're actually range bound. Why do I say that? Because when you go to the 30 minutes time frame, look what SPY is doing for the last 3-4 days. Every time we hit the low 590s, 590 to 592, we tend to reject. We have not been able to crack past 592 to start pushing more. Because we failed to do that, we are still technically, in this range. We have the support also down here around this 585 zone, so very close to that range. So we're stuck in the middle. When we hit the 585 zone, we tend to get bought back up. When we hit resistance around this 590 zone, we tend to reject. So overall, we're just range bound, going back and forth and back and forth. So that's what SPY is doing for the time being. If we start to lose the 585 zone and we close below that, there's going to be a bigger risk of a lot more downside. So please keep that in mind, guys. There's still that risk. For other factors, just know on the 4-hour time frame, there is still that head and shoulders, and there's still that risk of the downside that remains. So please keep that in mind, guys. There is that risk of downside, but SPY has not lost critical support. It also has not broken resistance. It's still in a range, so until we see which way it breaks, it'll determine a bigger move. But like I said before, the risk of the downside is still there looking at the setup, so please be very, very careful. So we'll see if SPY ends up losing support or not. We're stuck between the low 590s resistance and then the 585 zone as our main support. We're stuck in between, so we'll give it some time to develop. For ES, we have a head and shoulders. There's a left shoulder over here. There's a head up here, and there's a right shoulder. So as you can see, there's a head and shoulders. Now notice that when it comes to ES, we are also in a range. We tend to reject very close to this 5980 to 6000 area, and we tend to get bought back up around the lower 5900s. If we lose 5900 flat, we will turn a bit more bearish. And if we manage to break resistance around the upper resistance, we could try to push back up. Otherwise, we're just completely range bound right now, and we'll just have to see which way we end up going. If we manage to hold above 6,000, we're going to be looking for a rebound attempt. And if we lose 5,900 flat, we're going to turn a lot more bearish. We're in the middle right now, just going back and forth between these levels. So wait and see which way we break to determine a much bigger move. I do want to warn you, though, that we have a head and shoulders. So just be careful and be very, very open minded because of that. For other tickers like Nvidia, I just want to say that Nvidia is technically on a downtrend, but despite that, there are buyers who are starting to defend it as we hit the new year. So we're looking at resistance at 138. If we manage to hold above this very, very nicely, we could continue to push a lot higher. We could be looking for like the 140 area than 142 as resistance. I want to see it get back up at least 140 to have more hope for the bulls. And if we lose 136.7, we're looking for a dump back down to about 134. So that's where the support happens to be down here. So for now, it is trying to push, but we haven't really broken 140 to turn a lot more bullish. Might be a small push from here, but just be careful. And if we lose 136, we're looking for a dump, so just be very mindful of that. For Bitcoin, we're looking more bullish on the 4-hour time frame. As long as we don't end up losing 96,000, we're favoring a push for 98,000 from here. It's looking more bullish for now, so let's hope that we don't end up losing 95,700 and we push past 98,000. Looking at many others, we have NQ. NQ is also trying to push a little bit, but we're still technically in a range. We have not been able to crack past 21,500 and also 21,625 to turn more bullish. We have also not been able to lose 21,200 to turn more bearish. We're in the middle going back and forth for now, so just keep that in mind. Hopefully we get some kind of bounce later on, but we're not ready yet. We're just in a range. Same thing with the QQQ. We're rejecting off the 518 zone. We tend to get bought back up around 511, going back and forth and back and forth. So we're stuck right now. We're just going to give this more time to develop. As far as Tesla goes, like I said before, we could push a little bit more with the markets, but just be careful when you look at the bigger time frames. We still have this 200 EMA that has not been tested yet, so we're going to be waiting to see if Tesla does get more downside later. But like I said before, we're still technically in a range if you look at Tesla in the markets, so we're waiting to see how things develop. On Aapl, we have something very similar. We're dipping a lot more. We're going to be watching the support, which is where we're currently at, around this 244 area. If that fails on Aapl, we're looking for essentially 242, which is where this imbalance happens to be. We also have this resistance to watch for up around this 247 is zone, very close to that. We want to get back above that to bounce. Otherwise, this is a little bit more lackluster because of the news involving competition and other factors like that in China. So that news has come out. For the IWM Russell 2000, however, there's still technically a head and shoulders on the 4-hour, but we're holding above our 20 EMA. Our support's at 222, and our tough resistance is going to be at 225. We're stuck in the middle. Let's see how we end up reacting, but there could be a dip if we end up losing support. For coin, we're trying to rebound here. We're going to be looking at resistance at 262. Hopefully we break this and start pushing for 270. If we can't break this, there's still that gap. We came close to filling it. We did not entirely fill it, but it's okay. So look for a test of 262. If we break this could push more. I'm seeing a little bit more buyers stepping in. Amazon as well. Let's see if we could hold above 223.8. If we hold this, we could be looking for an attempt to get back up to 226. If not, if we lose 222, we're going to be dipping back down to about 220. I see potential in this to try to, hold. Let's see how it reacts to 223.8. Can we hold above that or not? For Meta, we're going to be watching to see how well we react to 600. We're going to shuffle here for quite some time, but there is potential for it to get up to 608 plus. If we lose 595, we turn back down, but I see potential for upside. For Microsoft, we have more potential as well. We're stuck in the middle. We have resistance around 428, and we have support right here around the 420 area. We're stuck in between these levels, so give this the time it needs. And I do want to say that Microsoft's a little bit weaker, so there could be a test of 420 soon. Google's in the middle. It's looking so right now, kind of flat. It's been continuing to shuffle around these areas. We have not been able to crack past 193 to turn bullish, though. But we also haven't lost 190 to turn more bearish. We are still stuck in the middle. Now, there is still that risk of that when you look at the head and shoulders that's developing, so just keep that in mind. But anyways, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. As far as Tesla goes, I still see weakness in the charts. When you look at the overall trend, however, for the very short term, if I go back to the 30 minutes time frame, you guys can see that Tesla is still trading between these levels I have marked. So if I actually zoom in, you guys can see. So we're going to be looking for these tests right here. We're still in these ranges right now. Tesla's not been able to get back above 390, but we also have not lost 378 to 380. So for the time being, we're stuck between 383 and 386. Could try to push a little bit higher, but like I said before, just be careful with Tesla. There's still that risk of downside for the future, looking at the overall trend. As far as SPY goes, we're still technically range bound. We'll have to see if we could break resistance or not. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, that's it for my update for now. Tesla is seeing some buyers defending it, but there's still that risk of downside when you look at the much larger time frames. So that's why I'm going to warn everyone to be very careful. That being said, thank you for listening. Have a good rest of your day. I'll be back in a couple of hours for another update, and peace out.